Hey there, today this video is going to be talking about comparing fractions using the signs greater than or less than. We'll talk about equal fractions in another video, but anyway, greater than or less than, okay? It depends on where you're from. Like down here in Florida, people like to call it the alligator. The alligator eats the bigger number. When I was growing up north, we used Pac-Man because that was a happening thing back then. But anyway, today we're going to talk about comparing fractions without having to deal with cross multiplication. Now, granted, you should always work on your multiplication and mentally, especially doing it in your head. That would be awesome. But let's say that for some reason you're having difficulty with your multiplication, especially the higher numbers, and you want to know if there's such a way to compare fractions without having to do all that, just by looking at them visually, even without drawing pictures. Well, yes, there is. And I've given you 4 examples here that I'm going to share with you of different ways that you could compare fractions using greater than or less than visually without having to deal with cross multiplication. So here they are. Start with the first one. By the way, remember, greater than or less than greater than, actually. Here's the first example. We've got 3/5 and 1/5. Now, whatever sign we decide to put in is going to go in here. Now, what do both these fractions have in common? Well, yes, the bottom numbers, or the denominators is what they're called, are the same. The top numbers, or numerators, are not. So this is a very simple one. This is probably the simplest one of all. When the denominators are different, and the numerators are, when the denominators are the same, which is 5 and 5, and the numerators 3 and 1 are different, it's simple. The one with the biggest numerator is the biggest fraction. So the alligator, or Pac-Man, is going to eat the 3/5 because 3 is bigger than 1. The 5s cancel out. In this one here, what do these two fractions have in common? Yeah, the numerators this time, the 1s are the same. The denominators are not. They're different, 6 and 2. What do you do here? Well, if you cover up the numerators, because technically they cancel out, you have 6 and 2. Now, in normal counting, of course, 6 is larger than 2. But in this case, because we're in fraction world, the sixth, remember this is not a 6, this is a 6th, is smaller. This is not a 2, this is a half. 6ths are smaller than halves because this takes 6 parts to fill up. This takes only 2. It's almost like if I had 2 bookshelves and I gave you a stack of phone books, this thick, the old school ones, or I gave you those skinny magazines like this, and I said, okay, fill up the shelf. Well, which would be easier to fill up? Would you fill them up? Would you rather fill it up with magazines or with phone books? Of course, you'd fill them up with phone books because it takes, even though the books are heavier, because they're larger, it takes less phone books to fill up a shelf than it does magazines. If you try to fill it up with those little magazines, you'll be there forever. Just like this. This is larger than this because it only takes 2 of these, where this takes 6 of these to fill up. Now, if I wanted to draw the picture, in this case, I'm going to try to make it as close as possible. Here's 1/6. Okay? It's not perfect, I know, but here's 1/2. Which circle is more filled in? The 1/2. So therefore, the alligator, or Pac-Man, would eat the 1/2. Another way to do this is to say to yourself, okay, what's the 1, the numerator, is 1 closer to 2 when you count, or closer to 6? Well, 1 is 5 away from 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 5 houses down. 1 and 2 are next door neighbors. So they're bigger. This is larger. This is a tighter bond because they're neighbors. So this is the bigger fraction. Okay? Now, let's take a look at this one. You got 4/7 and you got 6/9. Now, in this case, neither numerator nor denominators are the same. Okay? There's nothing equal about this fraction at all. So which one's bigger? Well, in normal cases, you would cross multiply. But like I said, especially with 7s and 9s, those can be a little difficult. Sometimes the 6s. If you're having a hard time with those times tables and you're in a hurry and you want to do it without having to, and I'm not, once again, I'm not saying don't know your times tables. Very important. But let's say you want to do it, easier with a shortcut. Here's how you do it. 4 is how many away from 7? 4, 5, 6, 7. 3 houses down. 6 is how many away from 9? Let's count. 6, 7, 8, 9. Also 3 houses down. So they are both equal distances apart. Doesn't mean they're equal. When you have two fractions where the numerators and the denominators are both equal distance apart, the larger fraction is the one with the bigger set of numbers. In this case, 6/9. 6/9 is larger than 4/7. If you took a 7-question quiz and got 4 right, and then the next day you took a 9-question quiz and got 6 right, this would be the higher grade. This would be the higher grade. Neither grade is great, but 6/9 would be larger than 4/7. 6 and 9 are just as close as 4 and 7, but 6 and 9 are the bigger pair of numbers as opposed to 4 and 7. So 4/7 is less than 6/9. Final example here. Oh, sorry about that. All right. 7/12 and 8/10. Well, we're dealing with double-digit denominators. The numerators are not the same. They're close, but they're not the same. So what's bigger now? Well, we'll go back to this step here. How far away is 7 from 12? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 5 houses down on the block. How far away is 8 from 10? Let's count. 8, 9, 10. Only 2 houses down. So what fraction do you think is larger? The 8/10 is larger. Exactly. Because, 8 is closer to 10 than 7 is to 12. This grade, 7 out of 12 on a quiz, would not be as high as 8 out of 10 on a quiz. So 8/10 was larger than 7/12. So this would be read, 7/12 is less than 8/10. Okay? So let's review with these examples. 3/5 is greater than 1/5. 1/6 is less than 1/2. Here, 4/7 is less than 6/9. And finally, 7/12 is less than 8/10. And all different examples with all different ways to do it. But they're all shortcuts, and I hope it makes your life a little easier. Instead of having to deal with cross multiplication, you do it this way visually. It comes real quick. Hope that helps. Talk to you later.